All right. Hi, guys. So this is going to be a little interesting because I think some of you will hear this lecture live in class, like the morning or afternoon, and the other ones will hear as a recorded lecture. So it's a little bit weird because on the slides it'll say, go to your breakout rooms. But if you are listening to this or watching this recorded, obviously you won't do that. So you have a couple options there. You can, kind of connect with someone else who is not is not live in the class right now. So if you have a buddy that's in the class and you guys want to do it together, so when it says discuss, you can actually discuss it with somebody. Or if you just want to, kind of do it on your own and write things down on your own as you go, you can do that too. Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen with you. And hopefully I do it correctly this time. All right, I did. I had a really hard time with that the first time I did it. When I did it, oops, shoot. Of course, I hit the wrong thing. There we go. I'm still having a hard time. All right, so I don't know why I'm like way at the end of here. All right, so here we go. At the very beginning, start at the very beginning. So we talked yesterday about, class procedures and that kind of stuff. I usually do guided notes, but that's really super hard to do if you are, if I'm not printing them out for you. So they are on Google Classroom. So you can certainly go there, and if you have a printer, great. If not, you can just type in as we go. I don't know if that's a little bit difficult to do at the same time as you're watching, but the benefit of having this recorded is that you can kind of stop and start it at any time. All right. So if you're not going to take notes on the guided notes, I would suggest taking notes on just a piece of paper or, even on your phone or whatever you're going to do, just so that you can have this written down somewhere. Of course, all these presentations are always going to be just docked in Google Classroom. So you can go back to them at any point, to study for tests and that sort of thing. Okay, so here we go. What is economics? That's a good question to answer, right? Chapter 1, section 1, like I said, start at the very beginning here. Okay, so again, obviously you're recorded, so you're probably not going to discuss this, certainly not going to discuss it in a breakout room in Zoom, but you can either discuss with somebody if you want, or, just kind of think about it. But, come up with a list of the things that you need to survive. So, and what I'm saying to people who are doing this is that the in general categories are fine. So it doesn't need to be, well, like I specifically need, this type of food or something like that. Because you don't, right? You just need like just regular food. And I really want you to think about, kind of needs versus wants, right? Because I would think that I need my coffee to survive, but that's actually not true. I just need, some form of like drink to like a water or whatever. All right, so if you're gonna, write things down, certainly pause this while you do that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and move on right now. So this was from, oh gosh, when were the last Winter Olympics? So for this, so must have been 2014. My friend Katie posted this on my Facebook page, and she said, have you seen the Norwegian team's curling pants? Probably should have been curling team's pants, but curling, of course, is that sport that we like to think of, our neighbors to the north in Canada playing, like where the brooms and they're on ice and there's a stone type ball and they're just yelling like rah, brush, 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 right? And they're like trying to end it somewhere. It's like shuffleboard on ice. So anyway, you guys don't know this about me because you have not seen me, you don't know me yet, but I'm sort of well known for having like really super crazy pants, like before it was a trend, right? Because it came in as a trend probably 2 or 3 years ago to have like crazy printed pants, but I was like the OG crazy pant lady. So anyway, all my friends like know me for this. And so my friend Katie must have been watching curling in the Olympics in 2014. So she posted this on my timeline. She's like, have you seen these pants? no, but I'm going to look them up right now. And she's like, all right, go CNBC. And so I did, obviously, and I like, screenshot a picture and I posted it. So here are the pants right here. And of course, those are like loudmouth golf pants. I don't know if any of you guys are golfers. I'm sure you're familiar with loudmouth, but like they're super popular now or easy to find. At the time, they definitely were not. But I said, I need those. And what I would like for you to decide in our discussion of wants and needs is what is wrong with that statement. You might be thinking there's a lot of things wrong with that statement. Number one, you probably think those pants are ugly and you're like, no, of course you don't need those. Like, why would anybody want those, right? But really in economics, the thing that's super wrong with that statement is that I don't need those pants, right? I need clothing, certainly, that's like socially acceptable, but I don't specifically need those pants. And actually, I will tell you, my husband makes fun of me all the time. He's like, how are you an economics teacher? And you always say, oh my God, I need that. Oh my gosh, I need that. I need. He's like, you don't need it. You don't need it. And he's right. But it's just in my vernacular, unfortunately. So again, we often say things like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And like 9 times out of 10, it's just simply not true. So again, today we're going to be discussing the differences between wants and needs. So go back to that list, the things you need to survive, right? And see how many you got right based on this one. So wants versus need. Here's what you need. You need food, right? Otherwise you will not last very long. You need, and we include like water in food, right? So you have things to drink too. So you need food, you need clothing, you need some form of shelter. Does it need to be a mansion on the lake? No, it does not. It can be a box, and that's fine too, but you need something to protect you from the elements. Like for instance, it's raining super hard right now today outside my classroom, and you would want to have some sort of shelter. Your home, your car, your camper, your whatever, okay? And then you'll see that education and healthcare are on here too, and they have asterisks next to them. So we, as like a high functioning society, look at those as needs as well. In that, like everybody has a right and an opportunity to what's called free and appropriate public education, right? We as a society have decided that education is a need in order to, advance a civil society, right? Now, education up to what grade? Like up to 12th grade, right? So that is what is provided for you. And then anything beyond 12th grade, so what we call post-secondary education, whether it's college or a trade school or university or whatever, that is not it's not considered a need, and so it's not provided for you. And then we also consider healthcare to be a need. If you pay attention to politics at all, I'm not sure how many of you guys do already. I know you're kind of young for that right now, but it is a presidential election year. And so, people kind of come in and out to politics during those times. But, healthcare is a major issue as well. We do, again, as a civilized society, see basic healthcare as a need. And so those who cannot provide it for them, we do, or for themselves, or is not provided through their employer or their parents or what have you, or their school. It is provided by the government through programs like Medicare, which is healthcare and insurance for elderly people, and then Medicaid, which is healthcare coverage for people who are low income. So again, like back in the day, right? Like in the beginning of humans, food, clothing, shelter. Now, again, we include education, healthcare. Not every country does, right? There's what you would normally refer to as like third world countries. Perhaps that's not something that is considered a need. But in any like post-industrialized country, we do consider that a need. And then your wants, and this is blank, but it's really just everything else. So the Norwegian curling team's pants, for instance, that's a want. My coffee is a want. An iPhone, that's my job, by the way. She has a smiley face squeaky toy in her mouth, which I took probably 150 pictures before I got the one where she actually had it in her mouth properly and was smiling. Yeah, those are wants, right? So like you need food. That's true. But do I need Casey's pizza? No, I want Casey's pizza because it's really good, right? Clothing. You need something to put on your body so that you are covered up. Do I need a North Face jacket? No, I want it, right? So that's kind of the difference. Oh, I did have it on there. Look at that. Literally everything else is a want. All right, moving on. Okay, here's your first extra credit opportunity. I like to give extra credit for like random things throughout the year. So here's your first just for fun bonus. I need to know, or look at that, I just said need. I want to know who is the group, what's the name of that group pictured below, and what song did they sing that I always think of when teaching about wants and needs. And of course, I'm not going to tell you that, but you need to know the group. And then, you know, maybe look up their songs from there. Or if you have I mean, clearly, like these guys are not young. Okay, I will give you a hint. They came right around the same time as the Beatles did to the US. So they're certainly an older band. You came in like the 60s, popularized in the late 60s, early 70s, and then have remained popular. And actually, I think still, well, nobody's touring now, but like I think they were still touring for a while. I've seen them a couple times in concert. They're actually very good. So anyway, if you have somebody at your house who's a classic rock fan and you show this picture to them, they'll know right away who this is. And they'll probably also know what song I'm talking about when we talk about wants and needs. It's one of their very popular songs. Okay, so if you have the answer to that, I want you to send it in an email. You just need to, number one, group name, number two, song title. Has to be the exact same song title I'm thinking of, by the way. Send an answer or send an email with your answer to my email address, which is right here, c.shigley@marisschools.us. If you're right, you'll get your bonus points. The only catch is the answers have to be received by 11:59 tonight. All right, so use your resources. You guys are smart. You can figure it out. All right, now we are into our actual course study here. So what is economics? This is a good time to tell you that we do a lot of vocab quizzes in this class. So every chapter will have a vocab quiz. And I think I talked about that in my intro slides. Like you'll have to join Quizlet because, again, usually the way I do it is pass out papers that you'll do practice vocab on. But this year, I'm going to have you guys just go on to Quizlet Live and you'll have to practice in several different ways. Like I think I had said that you have to do 8 practices. So run through flashcards, run through the destroyer video game, that thing, at least 8 times, at least 2 different things. You can't do flashcards 8 times, right? But if you run through those, and then like that's your practice for your vocab. I would suggest doing it way more than that. And before vocab quizzes, I always put Quizlet Live, which will be an interesting thing to do online, but we'll try. But yeah, so I would, get started on that as soon as you can. The link is already up in Google Classroom, but like I said, make sure that you are in the class on Quizlet first, or else it won't count. So if you do all these like flashcards, but you weren't signed into the class, then I have no way of tracking it. All right, so what is economics? Well, economics is a study of how individuals, families, businesses, and societies use limited resources to fulfill unlimited wants. So we want for everything, right? And we cannot have that. Limited resources such as what? Well, I don't have enough money, right? So that would be a limited resource, would be income. I don't have enough time. So let's say that there is I'm pre-recording this like before the school year. So my very most favorite band, the Avett Brothers, they're playing a drive-in concert, like a car drive-in concert. They're from North Carolina. So they're doing it in North Carolina this Saturday. And I had the resources to go if we wanted to, right? So I could have bought the tickets for it, but I don't have the time to drive down to North Carolina, take in a show, and then drive back to Michigan. So that would be a limited resource of time, right? So that's one. Other limited resources, natural resources, right? So like, let's say I want to, you know, I'm a builder, I want to build houses somewhere. Well, I need to find like a large plot of land that is not already built on in order to do that. And in a lot of instances, those are few and far between. If you've driven down Range Road lately, of course, you'll see that they're like between 6th Street and Ravenswood. You know, they're going to be building all of those houses, or back at the end of Presidential, like Capitol Liberty area, they're building a bunch of houses. And in our area, there's enough like free land to do that. If you go like New York City or something, like you can't really build anywhere because there isn't like a square inch of space that already has been built upon. So that's also limited resources, just land in general. But again, so we have to try to fulfill our needs and then our unlimited wants using limited resources. And, you know, we go through this process of rational choice, which is our next lecture. But, you know, how do you make choices between, you know, what you're going to spend your money and your time on and what you're not. All right, so this problem of what's called scarcity. So the idea behind scarcity, there's kind of like scarcity in economics and then scarcity in real life, and they sort of have two different meanings. So scarcity, just in general, like for economic study purposes, is this idea that people do not nor cannot have enough income, time, and other resources to satisfy all of their wants. Okay, so like even think of the richest person you can think of, and it's always a debate every year whether it's like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, or Oprah, right? And like think about, okay, well, what would they be limited by, right? They're probably not limited by income as much, but they are limited by time. Like, so let's say, you know, their two favorite bands were playing at the exact same time in two different venues. Well, then they still have to make that choice, right? But we don't think about like concerts as being something that goes into scarcity, right? In terms of like dire need for something. But again, like I said, scarcity economics, scarcity in real life is a little bit different. I'm going to explain it a little bit more. All right, so scarcity IRL, right? So think back to March. So the very beginning of COVID, like we all got sent home from school and like never to return or never for that year, although we didn't know it at the time. And people just started freaking out, right? So you know, some with good reason, because, you know, it's a global pandemic and nobody really knows what's going to happen. And so we don't know how much we're going to get shut down. Are we not going to be able to leave our houses? Are we going to be in like utter lockdown? When you think about, okay, well, what am I going to need if that happens? Well, a lot of things, you know, food, obviously you need enough food. People were stocking up on bottled water. People were stocking up on food that wouldn't go bad, such as like canned goods, right? So soup and mac and cheese and, you know, all of this stuff that that's going to last for a long time because nobody really knew. But the one thing that people just freaked out about was what? Toilet paper. You could not find toilet paper for about a month and a half. It might have been longer. So like from almost the end, well, like the middle of March, when did we leave? March 13th was our last day here. So the middle of March up until, I think like you didn't have to worry about it anymore, like the middle of May. So it was probably a couple of months before you knew that you could walk into a store and probably find toilet paper. I have a friend of mine who ordered toilet paper on Amazon, right? And even there, you couldn't really purchase it, and it's gonna be super expensive. They couldn't guarantee a delivery date and all that kind of stuff. So, of course, you know, fast forward a few months and like everything's fine, and you can just like walk into Meijer or Rite Aid or wherever and get your toilet paper. All is well. And his toilet paper finally arrives from who knows where it was even coming from around the world. And like, let's pretend, and this is not accurate, but I don't have a roll of toilet paper in my classroom, but like, let's pretend like this is like a regular roll of toilet paper, okay? So like the toilet paper, I'm trying to find something to compare this to. Hold on. The toilet paper that came was like this big. So like, here's our expectation, here's our reality, and I think he paid like $25 for like, you know, a 12 pack of toilet paper, which a 12 pack of like a regular normal toilet paper is $8 or something, right? It depends on, you know, what kind you get. But anyway, it was just funny because this idea that like, oh my gosh, if we run out of toilet paper and we can't leave our house, that is going to be a problem, right? But, you know, just the things that people kind of choose to not remain calm about. By the way, these were also in high demand. They actually still are. They're kind of difficult to find. This I actually found like under our sink from, you know, who knows when. I haven't even like opened it to see. They're probably dried out by now and completely useless, but we'll see. So it's sort of getting back to the point where you can find those sometimes. When they get back to like like the shelves are fully stacked with those, then I'll be like, okay, COVID's over. All right. Anyway, so what I was saying, like the difference between like economics, scarcity, like what we're going to study, and then this idea of something being scarce in supply are two kind of different concepts. So, oops, sorry. So for scarcity, the way we're going to study is just what I said before, these limited resources for unlimited wants, right? And again, your resources that are limited, time, money, products, natural resources, that sort of thing. So like I can't build because I can't find steel, you know, whatever. I mean, I don't build anything anyway, but to be scarce in actuality, so like our toilet paper example before, means that the amount of product available cannot meet the demand for that product at the particular time. Now, is it 100% different from scarcity in the study of econ? No, it's not. But to like normally when we are worried about scarcity, like I'm not necessarily worried about scarcity in the economics version of it. I just know that my resources, again, whether it's time or money or whatever, will run out at some point. And if that's natural resources, okay, that's going to be a problem. But like when you're worried about scarcity is when it's a needed product and you can't find it, right? So like you need toilet paper and you can't get it anywhere. So toilet paper was in scarce supply at that point. And what happens to price? Well, a lot of time, like Meyer did not arbitrarily raise their prices on toilet paper, right? That put my friend who ordered the toilet paper and it was like $25 for a dozen. Like, yes, they for sure inflated their prices. It's called price gouging. And there are certain things you can't do that with. Nobody really got on anybody for doing it with toilet paper, especially because, you know, when you order it off Amazon, you're ordering sometimes from another country. So like we don't necessarily have regulatory power as a government over, you know, what price somebody in like Korea charges for toilet paper, right? So I keep like looking at my fake toilet paper. But what's interesting too is not only what happens to price, but what happens to like we end up limiting people's purchases, right? So I believe even still, if you walk into Meijer and you go to the toilet paper aisle, even though it's like filled with all sorts of like glorious rolls of toilet paper, what you will find is it'll still say, there'll be a sign right there. It says limit 2 or 1 or 5 or whatever it was. And so they know that it is still considered kind of a scarce product that people need. And so they're going to limit the quantity that you can purchase. Now, if you go to Meijer in like the produce section and you're like, well, I want to buy 16 peaches, there's no limit on those because they're not a product that's in high demand. They're not a product that is considered to be like, you know, a necessity. And they're not a product that's like flying off the shelves. It's hard to get in, right? So they're not just going to limit quantities, purchase to limit quantities, because we don't do that in a capitalist society, right? In a capitalist society, buy whatever you want that you have enough money for. But when it is something like this where, you know, if you just happen to not get to the store early enough, like you're out of luck and you can't get any toilet paper because somebody went and bought, you know, 200 packets of it. The other thing they're trying to do is make sure that people don't go then resell it, right? So if I were to go in and buy like 20, like 6 packs of toilet paper during the height of COVID, if I was a horrible person, I could then like go onto Facebook Marketplace and be like, okay, I have the toilet paper and I'm charging you, you know, $20 for this 6-pack of toilet paper that I bought for $5. So that's kind of what we're trying to limit as well, because like, you know, there's capitalism and competition, and then there's like unfettered capitalism and price gouging. That's kind of, you know, that's the capitalism we try to avoid. Like you don't want to ever, you know, actively try to take advantage of somebody. All right, moving on. So production is the only other thing we have to talk about today. We have a few slides on this, and then you guys have a little assignment on factors of production. Okay, so words to know in production, and these are all in your vocab too. So production itself is just simply taking supplies, whether that be, you know, workers or supplies, not really, but like they help to make things, materials, natural resources, machines, what have you, and making a product for consumption. Consumption means I'm going to purchase that from you. So like my gold, very shiny tape roll here, like somebody produced this, or more likely a machine probably produced it. Well, what went into it? Well, you know, the tape itself and the metal here to take it off, and like the little plastic wheel, and then, you know, the outside of it, right? So, but they produce that and I consume it because I purchase it. So a producer is somebody who makes that good. So like the company or the person who manufactured this, which is Scotch, that's not a person, it's a large, very large company, 3M, I believe, is who owns them. They made this product with the idea that a consumer, me, would purchase that good. So if you are a purchaser or a recipient of goods, you're a consumer. And then we have this idea of factors of production. And that's what the rest of our focus is on today. So factors of production are the inputs available to supply goods and services in an economy. What the heck does that mean? Well, there's 4 of them. There's 5, but the 5th one kind of goes in with the last one. I like how I can just make myself travel all around the screen. All right, sorry, I get distracted a little bit, don't mind me. All right, so the 4 main factors of production: land, labor, capital, and enterprise, often sometimes referred to as entrepreneurship. I think your book refers to it as entrepreneurship. Enterprise makes a little bit more sense, but either way, just remember LLCE. Okay, so land is any natural resources available for production. So you don't think of just like the land something gets built on. You also think of like, you know, if you need, like if you're a restaurant and you're, or like Lixie's Fish downtown, like on the Black River, right? So they not only need the land that their building is built on, but they need, you know, the water source, they need the actual fish, which are natural resources too. So, you know, that is everything that you're pulling from the environment that exists in its natural form is needed. Like that is land, okay? Labor is human input into the production process. Labor means workers. So people who are working, like I'm a laborer for the school because I'm working for the school. Now, sometimes you'll hear laborer and it really means like to work with your hands and that sort of thing, rather than, you know, like think of me as a laborer, but either way, labor is workers. Capital, not capital with an O, like the capital of, you know, Michigan or the US or what have you, but capital with an A sometimes means money. A lot of times in economics means money. But when we're talking about factors of production, capital is goods used in the supply of other products, meaning the building that I'm manufacturing something in. If I'm like on an assembly line and there's a lot of machinery doing the work, all those machines are a part of capital. If I work in a restaurant, right, my freezer is capital, my cash register is capital, my stove is capital. All of that stuff that goes into creating what your final product is, whether that's food to be served at a restaurant or, you know, my tape dispenser, all the machines that go into that, those are all capital. And that, so buildings and technology, so all the computers, so that's capital too. Enterprise is sort of like, it's not super easily defined as like like something tangible, right? So enterprise is this idea that like we're free to take risks and open up our businesses. So we're free to use the other factors of production to create a product, to create, you know, a service business or what have you. So enterprise is like the willingness and the ability to use the factors of production to create a business, the willingness to take risk, the money put into starting a business, because you can't just like start a business and poof, it appears, right? So you have to like actively, you know, put money into that business. You have to purchase the business, rent the space, all that kind of stuff. All right, so those are your 4 factors of production. And again, that is an asterisk because there's a 5th, the other factor of production, and it's technology. So usually technology goes into capital, but sometimes, and in your book, it's given its own category. But oftentimes tech makes sense to go into capital. But technology is any advance in knowledge leading to new and improved goods and services and better ways of producing them. So like, I mean, the greatest example is probably initially the assembly line, right? I'm sure in your lives you've heard of Henry Ford, and you know, making of the cars on the assembly line. So you know that the invention of that is technology that improved the process of making cars. It made it so you can make more of them. When you can make more in a shorter amount of time, you can often charge less for them too, which makes consumers very happy, right? Anything that's done like in restaurants, the fact that they're like can, you know, input orders into a computer rather than like writing them all down and like putting the ticket over there and then trying to figure it out. So like a computer or a cash register, anything, or a credit card machine or something like that would be an improvement in technology. Online banking is a fantastic example of this, right? So you no longer have to go, like when I'm not like super old, but when I was growing up, you had to go to the bank. And then when I was in probably middle school or high school, people really started using ATMs a lot. And by the way, don't say ATM machine because like it's automated teller machine. So if you say ATM machine, you're saying ATM, or you're saying automated teller machine, and that doesn't, it's redundant. So anyway, people started using ATMs. So you didn't have to go in, you could like, you know, put your deposits in there and get your, you know, your cash out from that or what have you. And then we moved into online banking. So banks would have websites where you could go in and, you know, log into your account and move money and do whatever you have to do. Well, now there's apps, right? So that makes it even easier to bank. So all of those would be considered technological advances that would lead to being able to do business better. Sometimes, unfortunately, it leads to job loss too, right? So if we can automate something, it's less money to pay for, you know, the software for an app than it is to pay for 3 tellers at a bank, right? So unfortunately, you know, there's always a cost to an improvement as well. But, you know, that's a job as a business owner, is to figure out like, do the costs outweigh the benefits? Do the benefits outweigh the costs, right? So that's obviously like all the time as a business owner, that's what you're thinking of. And like hard decisions have to be made based on that fact. All right, so here's your assignment today. It's amazing how long I talk when I'm not even talking to anybody. Like this, I was looking at this slideshow and I'm like, oh my God, it's like 13 slides. I'll get through it in like 10 minutes. Nope. I'll just sit here and talk and talk and talk, and there's nobody even in my classroom. Anyway, so Dairy Boy. Are we familiar with Dairy Boy? We should be, right? So they have like this giant wooden eagle thing, and then there's like a bear over here too, and they have a big old ice cream cone, and they're open from like March to, you know, November or something like that. So I choose Dairy Boy because it's something I feel like almost everybody in Marysville is pretty familiar with. If you have never seen Dairy Boy before in your life, that's fine. Think of any other like ice cream place, like Dairy Queen, or, you know, the milk shop up in Lexington or something like that. But any, like, I'm looking at for more of like not like a sit down, right? So go up, order at a window. So even think of like a fast food restaurant if you need to, okay? All right, so again, you're not live, so you're not going to go to your breakout rooms, but you are going to do this sheet. So on your Dairy Boy sheet, you have to list all the things that you can think of that go into each factor of production for Dairy Boy. And I'm asking that you have at least four for each category. So your sheet is on Google Classroom. It's due by class time tomorrow. I'm going to see real quick if I can find this. Here we go. And again, like I said, you'll go on Google Classroom, but it's in a Google Doc. So on Google Classroom, I've just, clicked that. It says make a copy for everybody. So you should be able to edit it, no problem. So if you look, this is factors of production for Dairy Boy. We have land, labor, capital, and then enterprise or entrepreneurship. And I asked you to think of Dairy Boy and Gratiot in each of the boxes, list what they would need in each factor of production. So, need or have. Like what would they need to like if you're thinking back to opening up Dairy Boy, like what would they need to do that in order to successfully open up that shop? Now you should answer each of these questions in here, but then anything else that you can think of that'll fit into that category, like the more the merrier, certainly. So how much land, what natural resources do they need, or what have they used? Because need and used are not the same thing. Like somebody carved that giant eagle like out of a tree. That was a natural resource, was that tree. Did they need that? No. Is it cool? Yes. So there you go. All right, labor. So how many people should work at a time, or how many people do work at a time? But if you don't know how many people do work at a time, you can just go how many people should. For how long should they work? What kind of jobs are they doing there? So in a restaurant, like beyond Dairy Boy, that's even like I need a cook, I need, waitress, wait staff, I need hostesses, that sort of thing. Obviously Dairy Boy, you don't need hostesses, but. And then capital, so what machines or technology do they need to do business? Or should they have to make it a little bit easier? And then enterprise or entrepreneurship, what sorts of questions or risks do you think the owner thought about before opening the store? So like what, if you're gonna open a business, your main goal is to make a profit, right? Because people open up businesses and that's their job, right? That's how they make their living. So in order to survive and be able to buy the things that they need and the things that they want, they need to make money. So when you're opening up a business, you're like, okay, well, how am I going to make money? How much money do I need to make? So like those are the kinds of questions that I'm looking for. And then there's an extra credit opportunity here. Oh, there's another one. Look at that. I don't often do 2 in one day, but here you go. So go out for a walk or a bike ride or a car ride if you don't live near Dairy Boy, and take a selfie by Dairy Boy. No purchase necessary. So if I get emails from your parents and say, Mrs. Shigley, she's my economics teacher, she said that I have to go get ice cream tonight in order to get extra credit. That's not true. There's nobody here and the bells are ringing anyway, but so you do not actually have to purchase anything from Dairy Boy. I'm making that very clear right now. I just want to selfie with it. So attach it to this document, to your homework document, and you get 3 extra credit points. There you go. You can get extra credit points for naming the band and the song from the presentation, and then you can get extra credit points for attaching a selfie to your Dairy Boy document. All right. So my friends, that is it. And I'm trying to figure out how now I'm like really big and back in. Hi, everybody. All right. So that's it for the lesson on what is economics and scarcity and factors of production. And when we return, you guys will probably hear the next lecture live, but that'll be on, choices, trade-offs that we call in economics, that kind of stuff. Okay, so if there's any questions from here until I see you again, certainly feel free to email me or message me on Remind or something like that. All right, I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.